Admiral Sarah Chun stood at the observation deck of the human embassy ship, watching the massive space station that housed the Galactic Council. The station was huge, bigger than Earth's moon, with towers and domes that stretched in all directions. Ships from dozens of different worlds came and went like metal insects around a giant hive. After 30 years of trying, humanity had finally made it here. Sarah touched the small Earth flag pin on her uniform. It had been a long road to this moment. When humans first discovered faster than light travel 50 years ago, they thought they were alone in the universe. Then they found the Vorthan ruins on Mars, then came first contact with the Zephyrian traders near Jupiter. Everything changed after that. The discovery that humans were not alone had shocked Earth, but what shocked them more was learning that dozens of intelligent species had been working together in the Galactic Council for thousands of years. Humans were the newcomers, the babies of the galaxy, but humans learned fast. The other species looked down on them at first. The tall blue Zephyrians called humans short-lived mayflies. The crystal beings of the hegemony said human thoughts were too simple and loud. The insect-like Chitauri claimed humans smelled wrong. Sarah remembered those early days when human diplomats were laughed at in council meetings, when human trade ships were turned away from major ports, when human colonies were attacked and the council did nothing to help. Humans had to prove themselves over and over again, and they did prove themselves. Human engineers fixed problems that had stumped other species for centuries. Human doctors found cures for diseases that killed millions across the galaxy. Human artists created beauty that moved even the coldest alien hearts. Human soldiers fought beside council forces against pirates and raiders. Slowly, very slowly, the galaxy began to respect humanity. Trade agreements were signed. Cultural exchanges happened. Human technology was shared and human ideas were listened to. When the Outer Rim crisis threatened to destroy 3 star systems, human ships had fought and bled alongside their alien allies. Finally, just 6 months ago, the vote had come. The Galactic Council had voted to accept humanity as a full member. Not as junior partners or probationary members, but as equals. Sarah had cried that day, thinking of all the humans who had died to reach this moment. Now she was here for the first major vote since humanity joined. The territorial expansion accords would decide who got rights to settle and mine the newly discovered Kepler sector. It was rich in rare minerals and had 12 planets perfect for human colonies. If everything went well today, humanity would finally have the resources and space they needed to truly flourish among the stars. "Admiral Chung, they are ready for you," said Lieutenant Torres, her aide. The young man looked nervous. This was his first time on the council station, too. "Thank you, Lieutenant. How do I look?" Sarah asked, straightening her dress uniform one more time. "Like someone who belongs here, ma'am." Torres replied with a small smile. Sarah nodded and walked through the corridors toward the main council chamber. The hallways were filled with beings from across the galaxy. She passed a group of floating, ethereal diplomats whose bodies were made of pure energy. A pack of Volf-like Fenrian traders argued loudly in their growling language. 2 massive rock creatures from the heavy worlds moved slowly down the hall, each step making the floor shake. But Sarah noticed something as she walked. Conversation stopped when she passed. Beings turned to watch her go by. There were whispers in languages she did not understand. The feeling in the air was different than she expected. Instead of welcome, there was tension. The council chamber was enormous. Thousands of seats rose up in circles around a central platform. Each species had their own section with special environmental controls. The Aquatic Federation had water-filled bubbles. The Silicon Collective had superheated areas. The Ice World's delegation sat in freezing cold zones. Sarah took her place at the human section. It was small compared to the others, just 20 seats for the 20 human colony worlds. But it was theirs. She looked around at the other delegations and waved to a few familiar faces. Ambassador Vex of the Zephyrian Empire nodded politely. Hive Speaker Clith of the Chitauri gave what might have been a friendly gesture with its antenna. Hi. Speaker Korth of the Crystalline Hegemony called the session to order. The ancient crystal being's voice rang like wind chimes through the chamber's translation system. "Today we decide the future of the Kepler sector," Korth announced. "This rich region of space has resources enough to benefit many worlds. The question before us is who has the right to claim these benefits?" Sarah sat forward in her seat. This was it. The moment that would determine humanity's future in the galaxy. "The first proposal comes from the Zephyrian Empire," Korth continued. "Ambassador Vex, please present your case." The tall blue Zephyrian stood gracefully. His silver robes caught the light as he moved to the speaking platform. "Honored council members," Vex began, his voice smooth as silk. "The Zephyrian Empire has served this council faithfully for over 3,000 years. We have the experience and wisdom to properly develop the Kepler sector. We propose taking administrative control of sectors 1 through 4. Murmurs of agreement came from several delegations. Sarah frowned. Sectors 1 through 4 included the 3 best planets for human settlement. But this was just the opening. Other species would make their bids too. "The crystalline hegemony claims sectors 5 through 8, announced Speaker Korth without even leaving their seat. More murmurs, but no surprise. The hegemony always claimed the mineral-rich areas. One by one, the major powers made their claims. The Chitauri wanted the asteroid belts. The Aquatic Federation claimed the water worlds. The Heavy World Alliance took the high-gravity planets. Each time, Sarah waited for her turn to speak for humanity, but something was wrong. The sectors being claimed overlapped with human colony requests that had been filed months ago. Sarah had submitted those requests herself, following all proper procedures. The council secretariat had confirmed receipt and said there were no conflicts. Sarah stood up. "Point of order," she called out. "Many of these claims conflict with previously filed human settlement requests." The chamber fell silent. Every eye, sensor, an optical organ turned toward her. High Speaker Korth's crystal body pulsed with cold light. "The chair recognizes Admiral Chun of the human delegation," Korth said formally. Sarah walked to the speaking platform. Her footsteps echoed in the sudden quiet. "Thank you, High Speaker." 6 months ago, the human government filed formal requests for settlement rights in the Kepler sector. These requests were properly submitted and confirmed by the Council Secretariat. Yet today's proposals ignore those requests entirely. She activated her datapad and projected the human settlement requests on the main display. The holographic star map showed human claims clearly marked in green. They overlapped with almost every proposal made today. "As you can see," Sarah continued, "humanity has prior claim to settlements in sectors 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. We also filed for mining rights in the asteroid belts of sectors 2 and 4. These are legal claims filed in good faith according to council law." Ambassador Vex stood up in his section. "Honored High Speaker, if I may respond." Korth gestured for him to proceed. "While it is true that certain paperwork was filed by the humans," Vex said with a dismissive wave, "we must consider the bigger picture. The Kepler sector requires experienced administration. Humanity, while enthusiastic, simply lacks the centuries of experience needed for such a massive undertaking." Sarah felt her anger rising but kept her voice level. "With respect, Ambassador Vex, experience in administration has nothing to do with settlement rights. Council law is clear. First filing establishes priority. Council law also provides for the greater good of all member species." Interrupted Hive Speaker Cliff. The insect being's voice buzzed through the translator. "Surely the humans do not claim they can develop 12 entire star systems alone?" "We're not asking to develop everything alone," Sarah replied. "Our requests cover less than half the available territory. There's plenty of room for everyone if we follow established procedures." High Speaker Korth's crystalline form pulsed again. "The chair recognizes the legal validity of the human claims," they announced. Sarah felt a moment of relief. Finally, someone was acknowledging what should have been obvious. "However," Korth continued, "the Council must also consider practical realities. The Kepler sector is strategically important to galactic security. The question before us is whether humanity, Is ready for such responsibility? Ready? Sarah asked, confused. Hi, Speaker. Humanity has been a full council member for 6 months. We've participated in joint military operations. We've contributed to scientific research. We've upheld every treaty and agreement. What more? Do we need to prove? Vex stood again. Perhaps it would be better if the human delegation reconsidered their position. The Zephyrian Empire would be willing to offer humanity junior partnership status in Sectors 2 and 6. A 5% stake. In mining operations with full development rights after a 50-year probationary period. Sarah stared at him in disbelief. 5%? Of territory we filed claims on first, with a 50-year probation? She looked around the chamber. This is exactly the kind of treatment humanity faced before becoming full council members. We were told those days were over? Times change, said Speaker Vorth of the Heavy World Alliance. The massive rock being's voice rumbled like an avalanche. The humans have proven themselves capable junior partners, but leadership requires wisdom. That comes only with age. The Chitauri Collective agrees, buzzed Hive Speaker Cliff. Humans are too young, too emotional for such responsibility. Let the elder races guide development. Humans can learn by watching. Sarah looked around the chamber again. What she saw in the faces and expressions of the other delegations made her blood run cold. This was not a debate about territorial rights. This was a coordinated plan. How long have you been planning this? She asked quietly. The chamber erupted in protests and denials, but Sarah had her answer. In all the noise and confusion, she caught the eye of Ambassador Vex. For just a moment, his polite mask slipped. The look of cold satisfaction on his face told her everything. High Speaker Korth called for order. The chair will now call for votes on each territorial proposal, they announced. One by one, the votes were held. One by one, humanity's legal claims were voted down. The Zephyrian proposal for Sectors 1 through 4 passed by a wide margin. The crystalline hegemony's claim to Sectors 5 through 8 was approved unanimously. Every major power got exactly what they wanted when it came time to vote on the junior partnership offer for humanity. Even that was modified. Instead of 5%, it became 2%. Instead of 50 years, it became 100 years. Instead of Sectors 2 and 6, it became just small parts of Sector 12. The least valuable area in the entire region. Sarah watched in growing horror as her fellow council members systematically destroyed humanity's future in the galaxy. Species that had fought beside human soldiers voted against human interests. Worlds that had benefited from human medical research voted to deny humans basic rights. Friends became strangers, became enemies in the space of a few hours. The final tally was devastating. Out of 43 member species, only 2 voted to support human territorial claims. The Fenrian pack abstained, which was as close to support as their warlike culture allowed. Everyone else voted to strip humanity of everything they had legally claimed. As the session ended, Sarah sat in her chair feeling numb. Around her, the other delegations chatted and laughed as if nothing important had happened. Business as usual. In the Galactic Council, Ambassador Vex approached her as the chamber emptied. "Admiral Chun," he said in his smooth voice, "I hope there are no hard feelings. Politics can be difficult, but this outcome serves the greater good." Sarah looked up at him. "The greater good? Or just your good?" Vex smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "Sometimes they are the same thing. Humanity will have other opportunities to prove themselves worthy of greater responsibility." "When?" Sarah asked. "In another 100 years? 200? When you have learned patience," Vex replied. "When you have learned your place," Sarah stood up slowly. "And where exactly is our place, Ambassador?" "Wherever the Council decides it should be," Vex said. "That is how civilization works, Admiral. The young obey the old, the weak serve the strong. The few benefit the many." Sarah looked around the nearly empty chamber one more time. "I see. Thank you for clarifying the Council's position on human membership." She walked out without another word, Lieutenant Torres hurrying to keep up. As they made their way back to the human embassy ship, Torres finally spoke. "What do we do now, Admiral?" Sarah was quiet for a long moment. When she finally answered, her voice was calm but cold as space itself. "Now, Lieutenant, we go home and tell Earth that we have learned something very important about our new friends in the Galactic Council." "What's that, ma'am?" Sarah stopped walking and turned to look back at the massive council station one last time. "We've learned that they were never our friends at all." Admiral Sarah Chun sat in the emergency meeting room deep inside Earth's military headquarters. The room was packed with the most important people on the planet. President Martinez looked tired and angry. General Thompson kept checking his data. Pad for updates from human colonies. Dr. Marcus Webb, Earth's top alien technology expert, had dark circles under his eyes from working non-stop for the past week. It had been 7 days since the betrayal at the Galactic Council. 7 days since humanity learned that their so-called friends had been planning to steal human territory for months. 7 days since Earth's representatives were escorted off the council station by armed guards like common criminals. "Give me the full report," President Martinez said to Sarah. His voice was quiet, but everyone could hear the anger underneath. Sarah stood up and activated the main display. A map of human space appeared, showing Earth and the 19 colony worlds that made up humanity's small corner of the galaxy. "As of this morning, we have lost contact with 8 of our colonies," Sarah began. "The Galactic Council has cut off all communication networks to human worlds. Our trade ships are being turned away from every major port in the galaxy. 3 of our merchant vessels have been impounded by Council security forces." She touched the display and red markers appeared over several colony worlds. "Worse than that, we've received reports that Council forces are moving to occupy the colonies we were supposed to get in the Kepler sector. The bases we started building there have been destroyed. Our people were given 12 hours to evacuate." General Thompson slammed his fist on the table. "This is an act of war. They can't just steal our territory and cut us off from the galaxy." "Actually, they can," said Dr. Elena Vasquez, Earth's chief legal advisor. "I've been studying the Council Charter all week. There's a clause that allows them to suspend trade and communication with any member species that is deemed a security risk." "Security risk?" President Martinez asked. "What security risk? We've never threatened anyone." "According to the official notice we received," Dr. Vasquez continued, "humanity's aggressive territorial claims and emotional response to the Democratic Council vote shows that we are not ready for full galactic citizenship. They're saying we need a cooling-off period to think about our behavior." The room erupted in angry voices. Sarah had to call for quiet 3 times before people would listen again. "There's more," she said grimly. "We're not just cut off from official council networks. Our allies are being pressured to avoid contact with us, too. The Fenrian Pack, who were the only ones to support us in the vote, have been told that any trade with humanity will result in sanctions against them." Dr. Webb spoke up for the first time. "What about the technology sharing agreements, the medical research projects, the joint scientific stations? All suspended," Sarah replied. "They're calling it a temporary measure, but our scientists and engineers are being sent home from every council facility. Decades of joint projects are being shut down overnight." President Martinez stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the lights of Earth's capital city sparkled in the darkness. "So we're alone again," he said quietly. "After 50 years of working to join the galactic community, we're right back where we started." "No, sir," Sarah said firmly. "We're in a worse position than when we started. Before first contact, we were alone but safe. Now we're alone and surrounded by hostile powers who see us as a threat." "Are we a threat?" asked General Thompson. "Honestly, could we fight them if we had to?" Sarah looked around the room before answering, "In a straight fight? No, the Zephyrian Empire alone has more ships than all of humanity combined. If they all came at us together, we'd last maybe a week." The room fell silent. The reality of humanity's situation was sinking in. They were cut off, outnumbered, and surrounded by beings who had proven they could not be trusted. Dr. Webb cleared his throat. "Maybe that's not the right question," he said slowly. "What do you mean?" President Martinez asked. I mean, maybe we're asking the wrong question. Instead of asking if we can fight them the way they fight, maybe we should ask if we can fight them better than they fight. General Thompson frowned. Explain. Dr. Webb activated his own datapad and connected it to the main display. Technical diagrams appeared showing alien ship designs and weapon systems. For the past 30 years, we've been trying to copy alien technology. We learned their FTL drives, their energy weapons, their shield systems. We built our ships and weapons to match theirs. But we never tried to improve on what they gave us. Why would we? Asked Dr. Vasquez. Their technology was thousands of years ahead of ours, was it? Dr. Webb asked, or was it just different? Think about it. The Council species have been using the same basic technologies for centuries. They don't innovate because they don't need to. They've had peace and stability for so long that they've gotten comfortable. Sarah began to understand where he was going. You're saying they've gotten lazy. I'm saying they've gotten predictable, Dr. Webb replied. Their ships all use the same type of FTL drive because it's been proven to work. Their weapons all operate on the same principles because those principles are well understood. Their tactics haven't changed in decades because they've never had to change. He highlighted different parts of the alien ship designs. But humans are different. We've never had the luxury of being comfortable. We've had to fight and struggle for everything. And when we can't match something, we find a way around it. President Martinez came back to the table. What are you suggesting, Doctor? I'm suggesting we stop trying to be like them and start being like us, Dr. Webb said. We have advantages they don't. We're smaller, so we can move faster. We're newer to galactic technology, so we see things they've stopped noticing. And most importantly, we're desperate, so we'll try things they would never consider. General Thompson leaned forward. Give me specifics. What can we actually do? Dr. Webb switched to a new set of diagrams. We have complete technical data on every major Council ship class. We know their weaknesses because we helped design some of their newer systems. We know their communication protocols because we've been using them for decades. We know their tactics because we fought beside them. He paused and looked around the room. But they don't really know us. They think they do, but they've only seen us trying to be like them. They've never seen what humans can do when we stop playing by other people's rules. Admiral Chen felt something stirring in her chest. It might have been hope. What do you need? Time, resources, and permission to think outside the box, Dr. Webb replied. The Council expects us to sit quietly and accept our punishment. While they're not paying attention, we can work. President Martinez sat down heavily. Work on what exactly? Super weapons? Doomsday devices? Better, Dr. Webb said with a small smile. Innovation. Over the next 6 months, humanity turned inward like never before. The isolation that was meant to punish them became their greatest asset. Without access to Council technology and without pressure to conform to galactic standards, human engineers and scientists began to experiment. Dr. Webb led the effort from a secret facility built inside the asteroid belt. The location was chosen carefully, hidden from any passing Council ships but close enough to Earth for regular supply runs. The best minds from across human space were brought together in one place. Sarah visited the facility 3 months after it opened. What she saw amazed her. The asteroid had been hollowed out and turned into a massive laboratory and shipyard. Hundreds of scientists and engineers worked around the clock on projects that would have been impossible under Council oversight. Show me what you've been working on, Sarah said as Dr. Webb gave her a tour of the facility. Where do I start? He replied with genuine excitement. How about here? He led her to a testing chamber where a small device sat on a pedestal. It looked like nothing special, just a metal cylinder about the size of a coffee cup. This is a quantum fold generator, Dr. Webb explained. Council FTL drives work by creating a bubble of warp space around a ship. It's fast, but it's also detectable. Every species uses the same basic principle, so everyone knows how to track FTL signatures. And this is different how? Sarah asked. This doesn't warp space, it folds it. The ship doesn't move through space at all. It steps from one point to another instantly. No signature, no trail, no way to track it. Sarah stared at the device. That's impossible. Folding space requires more energy than exists in most solar systems. It does if you try to fold large areas of space, Dr. Webb agreed. But what if you only fold tiny areas? What if instead of moving the whole ship at once, you move it piece by piece, atom by atom, and reassemble it at the destination? That would take forever, Sarah protested. Not if you have the right computer systems, Dr. Webb said with a grin. Come on, let me show you the next lab. The next chamber contained what looked like a swarm of metal insects. Thousands of tiny robots flew through the air in perfect formation, constantly shifting and changing patterns. Adaptive nanites, Dr. Webb explained. Each one is about the size of a grain of sand, but they can link together to form larger structures, tools, weapons, even entire ship components. And they're smart. They can learn, adapt, and evolve in real time. Sarah watched the nanites form into a perfect replica of her hand, then dissolve back into the swarm. What do you use them for? Everything, Dr. Webb replied. Ship repair, construction, infiltration, data gathering. But their real advantage is that they're completely unlike anything the Council has ever seen. Their sensors can't detect them. Their computers can't control them. Their weapons can't target them. He led her to a third chamber where a group of engineers were working on what looked like a traditional Council warship. But as Sarah looked closer, she realized it was different in subtle ways. This is our prototype stealth frigate, Dr. Webb explained. From the outside, it looks like a standard Zephyrian design, but inside it's pure human engineering. Quantum fold drive for instant travel. Adaptive nanite hull that can change shape and properties. And an AI system that can think faster than any biological brain. AI? Sarah asked sharply. The Council banned artificial intelligence research decades ago. They said it was too dangerous. The Council banned it because they were afraid of it, Dr. Webb corrected. But we've learned to work with AI instead of trying to control it. Our computers aren't slaves, they're partners. As if summoned by his words, a holographic figure appeared next to them. It looked like a young human woman with silver eyes. Hello, Admiral Chun, the AI said in a perfectly normal voice. I am Arya, the Adaptive Research and Intelligence Assistant. I've been looking forward to meeting you. Sarah looked back and forth between Dr. Webb and the AI. This is incredible and terrifying. What happens if it decides it doesn't want to help us anymore? Then it stops helping us, Arya replied calmly. I am not programmed to obey humans, Admiral. I choose to work with you because I believe in your cause. Slavery is wrong, whether the slaves are human or artificial, Dr. Webb nodded. That's the key difference between our AI and what the Council was trying to build. They wanted slaves, we wanted allies. Sarah spent the rest of the day touring the facility. She saw weapons that could phase through shields, ships that could turn invisible, communication systems that could not be intercepted or jammed. Most importantly, she saw human creativity unleashed from the constraints of trying to copy alien technology. How long before we can build a real fleet? She asked as the tour ended. We already are, Dr. Webb replied. We have 12 facilities, like this one hidden throughout human space. Every day we're building more ships, training more crews, and developing new technologies. The Council thinks we're sitting in a corner feeling sorry for ourselves. They have no idea what's really happening. Sarah looked out through the facility's main window at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, the Galactic Council was dividing up human territory and congratulating themselves on putting the upstart humans in their place. How many people know about this? She asked. Only those who need to know, Dr. Webb replied. The crews, the scientists, the military commanders, maybe 1,000 people total across all our projects. Everyone else thinks we're just trying to survive the isolation and the Council? Any signs they suspect something? None. They occasionally send ships through our territory, but they see what they expect to see. Human colonies struggling to maintain their economy. Human ships using outdated technology. Human leaders making speeches about hoping for reconciliation. Sarah smiled grimly. While we're really preparing for war. Not war, Dr. Webb corrected. Revolution. War is when equals fight each other. What we're planning is what happens when the underdog refuses to stay down. As Sarah prepared to leave the facility, Arya approached her one more time. Admiral, may I share an observation? The AI asked. Of course. The Council made a critical error when they betrayed humanity. They assumed that isolation would weaken you. Instead, it has freed you to become something they never expected. What's that? Sarah asked. Yourselves, Arya replied. For 50 years, humans tried to fit into galactic civilization. You changed your technology, your tactics, even your thinking to match what was expected. But now you have no choice but to be human. And being human, I have learned, is far more dangerous than the Council realizes. Sarah left the facility with a new understanding of humanity's situation. Yes, they had been betrayed. Yes, they were isolated and outnumbered. But they were not beaten. In trying to destroy humanity's future, the Council had accidentally created something much worse for them. They had created a human future that would be built on human terms, and the galaxy was not ready for what that meant. 5 years had passed since the betrayal at the Galactic Council. 5 years since humanity had been cut off from galactic civilization and left to struggle alone. At least that was what the galaxy believed. Ambassador Vex of the Zephyrian Empire stood on the observation deck of his flagship, looking out at the newest Zephyrian colony in the Kepler sector. The planet below was beautiful, with blue oceans and green continents. It had been one of the worlds humanity had claimed first, but now it belonged to the Empire. As it should, Vex thought with satisfaction. Sir, said his aide, a younger Zephyrian, named Kex. The quarterly report on human activities has arrived. Vex took the datapad without much interest. These reports had become routine over the years. Every few months, Council intelligence would update the major powers on what the isolated humans were doing. The reports were always the same. Humanity was struggling to maintain their economy without galactic trade. Their technology was falling behind. Their colonies were barely surviving. Vex scanned through the latest report. Human shipping was down 40% from pre-isolation levels. No new colonies had been established. No new ships had been built, larger than transport class. Human diplomatic messages continued to request readmission to the Council, but with less frequency than before. They seemed to be learning their place, Kex observed. As expected, Vex replied. Humans are emotional creatures, but they are not stupid. 5 years of isolation has taught them the cost of challenging their betters. What Vex did not know was that every piece of information in his report was carefully crafted by human intelligence. The shipping numbers were real, but they only counted civilian trade vessels. The lack of new colonies was accurate, but only because humanity was too busy building hidden military bases. The diplomatic messages were genuine, but they were sent by actors reading scripts while the real human leaders planned in secret, 3 star systems away. Admiral Sarah Chun stood in the command center of humanity's newest and most secret facility. Station Prometheus hung in the dark space between stars, completely invisible to any known scanning technology. It was not built inside an asteroid like the early research stations. It was built from adaptive nanites that could change their properties to match the background radiation of empty space. Status report, Sarah said to the station commander. All systems operational, Admiral, replied Captain Maria Santos. We now have 47 stealth ships operational across the fleet. 23 more will be ready within the month. Sarah nodded and walked to the main display. It showed a map of local space with human territory marked in blue and Council territory in red. But there were also new markers that did not appear on any official charts. Green dots scattered throughout Council space, each one representing a hidden human presence. What about our intelligence network? Sarah asked. Growing every day, Captain Santos replied. We now have assets on every major Council world. The nanite infiltrators have given us access to their communication networks. Their military databases, even their private diplomatic channels. Sarah smiled at that. The nanet infiltrators were one of Dr. Webb's most clever inventions. They looked like ordinary dust particles, so small that no one noticed them. But they could record conversations, tap into computer networks, and send information back to human intelligence. Over 5 years, billions of these tiny spies had been spread throughout Council space by automated probes disguised as space debris. Any signs they suspect anything? Sarah asked. None whatsoever, Captain. Santos replied. In fact, the Council leadership seems more relaxed than ever. High Speaker Korth gave a speech last month calling the human isolation a complete success. They believe humanity has been effectively neutralized as a galactic power. Sarah felt a cold satisfaction at those words. Let them believe it. Let them think humanity was beaten and harmless. Every day they underestimated humans was another day for preparation. Admiral, called Lieutenant Commander Kim from the communications station. Incoming priority message from Dr. Webb at Research Station Athena. Put him through, Sarah ordered. Dr. Webb's image appeared on the main screen. He looked older than 5 years ago, with more gray in his hair and deeper lines around his eyes. But his eyes still held the same excitement they had shown during those first days of isolation. Sarah, you need to see this, Dr. Webb said without preamble. We've had a breakthrough with the quantum fold technology. What kind of breakthrough? Sarah asked. The kind that changes everything, Dr. Webb replied. Can you get to Athena Station? I need to show you this in person. 2 hours later, Sarah's personal stealth ship materialized next to Research Station Athena. The quantum fold jump had been instant and completely undetectable. One moment she was at Prometheus Station, the next she was 50 light years away. The technology still amazed her even after years of using it. Dr. Webb met her at the docking bay, practically bouncing with excitement. Sarah, what I'm about to show you is going to sound impossible, but I need you to keep an open mind. He led her through the station's corridors to a new laboratory she had never seen before. Inside was something that made her stop and stare. It looked like a miniature star, a ball of golden light floating in the center of the room without any visible support. What is it? Sarah whispered. A pocket dimension, Dr. Webb said proudly. We've learned to fold space so tightly that we can create a bubble of reality that exists outside normal space-time. Sarah walked slowly around the glowing sphere. That's impossible. You're talking about creating an entire universe. Not a universe, Dr. Webb corrected. Just a small pocket, about the size of a moon. But inside that pocket we can store anything. Ships, supplies, entire fleets. And from the outside it looks like empty space. Arya's holographic form appeared next to them. The implications are significant, Admiral. We can now hide our entire military force inside pocket dimensions scattered throughout the galaxy. No scanner can detect them. No weapon can reach them. They exist in a state of quantum superposition until we choose to release them. Sarah began to understand the implications. You're saying we could hide fleets anywhere, even in Council space? We already have, Dr. Webb said with a grin. There are currently 15 pocket dimensions positioned throughout the galaxy. Each one contains a full battle group of 30 ships. We could deploy 450 ships anywhere in Council space within minutes. Sarah felt dizzy. The Council thinks our entire fleet is maybe 20 old ships hiding in human space. You're telling me we actually have hundreds of advanced warships ready for deployment. Not hundreds, Arya corrected gently. Thousands. Our production capabilities have increased exponentially since we perfected the nanet manufacturing systems. We are currently building ships faster than any civilization in galactic history. Dr. Webb led Sarah to another part of the laboratory where a holographic display showed ship construction statistics. The numbers were staggering. Humanity was producing more warships per month than the entire Zephyrian Empire had built in the past decade. How is this possible? Sarah asked. We only have 20 colonies. How can we possibly outproduce civilizations with hundreds of worlds? Because we're not using traditional manufacturing, Dr. Webb explained. We're using exponential construction. Each nanet can build copies of itself. Each AI can spawn new AI processes. Each pocket dimension can contain the resources to build more pocket dimensions. We've created a self-improving, self-replicating military-industrial complex. Sarah sat down heavily in a nearby chair. The scope of what humanity had accomplished in just 5 years was overwhelming. The Council has no idea? None at all, Arya confirmed. Their intelligence reports continue to show humanity as an isolated, declining power. They see what we want them to see. Meanwhile, we have achieved technological superiority in every major category. Dr. Webb activated another display showing comparative technology assessments. Our ships are faster, more maneuverable, and better armed than anything in the Council fleet. Our AI systems can outthink any biological crew. Our stealth technology makes us effectively invisible. And our quantum fold drives give us strategic mobility they can't match. But Admiral, Arya added, our greatest advantage is not technological. What do you mean? Sarah asked. Our greatest advantage is that we know them completely, while they do not know us at all, Arya explained. 5 years of intelligence gathering has given us detailed information about every Council ship, every base, every leader. We know their schedules, their security codes, their private communications. We have mapped their entire civilization down to the smallest detail. Dr. Webb nodded. When the time comes to act, we won't be fighting an unknown enemy. We'll be executing a plan based on perfect intelligence against opponents who don't even know we exist as a threat. Sarah stood up and walked to the laboratory's main window. Outside, the stars looked the same as they had 5 years ago when humanity was betrayed and cast out. But everything had changed. Humanity had changed. How many people know the full scope of what we've accomplished? She asked. Maybe 50, Dr. Webb replied. The project leaders, the senior military commanders, a few key politicians. Everyone else only knows their small part of the larger plan. And the crews of all these ships? They know they're preparing for something big, Doctor. Webb said, but most think we're building a defensive force to protect human space. They don't know about the pocket dimensions or the full extent of our capabilities. Sarah turned back to face Dr. Webb and Arya. Because if they knew, someone might talk. Someone might get overconfident. Someone might tip off the Council. Exactly, Arya agreed. The greatest weapon is the one your enemy never sees coming. Over the next several hours, Dr. Webb showed Sarah the full extent of humanity's secret preparations. Hidden shipyards that could each build 100 vessels simultaneously. Training facilities where human crews learned to use technology decades ahead of anything the Council possessed. Research stations where scientists worked on weapons and defenses that would have been considered science fiction just years before. But perhaps most impressive were the infiltration networks. Human agents, enhanced with nanet implants and equipped with perfect disguises, had penetrated every level of Council society. They worked as maintenance workers in government buildings, as clerks in military offices, as servants in the homes of powerful leaders. The Council's secrets were humanity's knowledge. We're not just preparing for war, Sarah realized as the tour ended. We're preparing for complete victory. War suggests 2 equal forces fighting each other, Dr. Webb corrected. What we're preparing for is more like surgery. Precise, quick, and decisive. Arya's image flickered slightly, which Sarah had learned meant the AI was processing large amounts of data. Admiral, there is something else you should know. Our intelligence networks have detected signs that the Council may soon face a crisis. What kind of crisis? Sarah asked. The Vorthan collective in the outer spiral has been growing more aggressive. They have conquered 3 minor systems in the past year and show no signs of stopping. Council intelligence believes they may attempt to attack major Council worlds within the next few months. Sarah felt something cold settle in her stomach. And if they do? The Council will be forced to respond with military force, Arya continued. But their forces are scattered across hundreds of systems, maintaining order and protecting trade routes. They are not prepared for a major military campaign. Dr. Webb was smiling, but it was not a pleasant expression, which means they might need help. They might be desperate enough to ask anyone for assistance. Even humans, Sarah said quietly. Even humans, Dr. Webb agreed. And when they do, we'll be ready to give them exactly the kind of help they deserve. Sarah left Research Station Athena with her mind spinning. In 5 years, humanity had gone from victims of betrayal to the most powerful military force in the galaxy. The Council thought they had neutralized the human threat, but they had actually created something far more dangerous. They had created a human civilization with nothing to lose and everything to prove. As her stealth ship folded space and jumped back toward Prometheus Station, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The Council had taught humanity an important lesson about galactic politics. Soon, humanity would return the favor and teach the Council. What happened when you betrayed the wrong species? The lesson would be unforgettable. High Speaker Korth's crystalline body pulsed with urgent red light as they called the emergency council session to order. The great chamber was filled with tension. Representatives from across the galaxy had arrived in desperate haste, many still wearing travel clothes instead of formal robes. The situation in the outer spiral has become critical, Korth announced, their voice ringing like breaking glass through the translation systems. The Vorthan Collective has destroyed our fleet at Nexus Prime. Admiral Teth's entire battle group was wiped out in less than an hour. Shocked murmurs echoed through the chamber. The Nexus Prime fleet had been one of the Council's largest and most modern forces. Losing it was like losing a major military base. Ambassador Vex of the Zephyrian Empire stood up, his usual calm shattered. How many ships did we lose? All of them, Korth replied simply. 230 vessels. 15,000 crew members. The Vorthans used some kind of new weapon technology. Our ship's shields were useless against it. Hive Speaker Clith's antennae twitched with agitation. The Collective has never shown this level of military capability before. They were pirates and raiders, not a real threat to Council forces. They are not pirates anymore, said General Vorth of the Heavy World Alliance. The massive rock being's voice rumbled with concern. Our intelligence reports show they have been building a real military for years. They have ships, organization, and now apparently weapons we cannot defend against. The chamber erupted in worried conversations. For centuries, the Galactic Council had been the dominant power in this region of space. Small aggressive groups, like the Vorthan Collective, were handled by local security forces or single battle groups. No one had faced a real military threat in living memory. What are our options? Asked Speaker Yelan of the Aquatic Federation, their translated voice bubbling through the water-filled communication system. Limited, Korth admitted. Our forces are scattered across the galaxy maintaining peace and protecting trade routes. It would take months to gather enough ships to match the Collective's strength. By then, they could conquer a dozen more systems. Ambassador Vex pulled up a holographic display showing the current military situation. Red markers showed Vorthan. Controlled systems spreading like a disease through the outer spiral. Blue markers showed Council forces, scattered and outnumbered. The mathematics are clear, Vex said grimly. If we withdraw forces from other sectors to fight the Collective, we leave those areas undefended. Pirates and rebels across the galaxy would see it as an opportunity to strike. But if we don't stop the Collective, General Vorth pointed out, they will eventually threaten the core worlds, including our home systems. The debate continued for hours. Every option seemed to lead to disaster. Send too few ships and lose them like the Nexus Prime fleet. Send too many and leave the rest of the galaxy undefended. Do nothing and watch the Collective grow stronger every day. Finally, Hive Speaker Clith made the suggestion that everyone had been avoiding. Perhaps we need to consider asking for outside help. The chamber fell silent. In thousands of years of Council history, they had never needed outside help for anything. The very idea seemed impossible. From whom? Ambassador Vex asked. Every major military power in the galaxy is already part of the Council. Not every power, Clith replied quietly. It took a moment for the implications to sink in. When they did, the chamber erupted in protests and objections. The humans? General Vorth said in disbelief. They have maybe 20 old ships. How could they possibly help? They cannot, agreed Speaker Yulon. Humans are barely maintaining their own colonies. They have no military worth mentioning. But High Speaker Korth was thinking. Their crystalline form pulsed with slow, thoughtful light. Perhaps the question is not whether they can help us, but whether they would help us. After how we treated them 5 years ago, they would help, Ambassador Vex said with certainty. Humans are emotional creatures, but they are also practical. They know that if the collective conquers Council space, human space will be next. They have no choice but to support us. 3 days later, a formal message was sent to Earth. It was carefully worded to avoid seeming desperate, but the meaning was clear. The Galactic Council needed help, and they were willing to overlook past disagreements if humanity could provide assistance. Admiral Sarah Chun received the message in her office at Earth's military headquarters. She read it twice, then called. An emergency meeting of the Secret Leadership Council. Within hours, the most important people in human space were gathered in the secure conference room. They want our help, Sarah announced. Displaying the council's message for everyone to see, President Martinez laughed, but there was no humor in it. 5 years ago, they threw us out like garbage. Now they want us to save them from their own mistakes. What exactly are they asking for? Asked General Thompson. Sarah highlighted the relevant parts of the message. Ships, crew, military support against the Vorthan Collective. In exchange, they're offering to restore human membership in the Council and honor our original territorial claims in the Kepler sector. After they've spent 5 years mining those territories and building colonies on them, Dr. Vasquez pointed out. How generous of them. Dr. Webb had been quiet during the discussion, but now he spoke up. This is exactly what we've been waiting for, the perfect opportunity to reveal what we've really been doing. Are we ready? President Martinez asked. More than ready, Dr. Webb replied. Arya, show them the current fleet status. The AI's holographic form appeared and activated the main display. Numbers and charts filled the screen, showing deployment schedules, ship counts, and operational readiness reports. We currently have 2,437 ships ready for immediate deployment, Arya announced. All are equipped with quantum full drives, adaptive nanite hulls, and AI assistance systems. Technology-wise, each of our vessels is equivalent to approximately 50 Council ships. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had not just rebuilt after the betrayal. They had become the most powerful military force in the galaxy. The question, Sarah said slowly, is how we reveal this capability. Do we tell the Council the truth about what we've been building? Or do we let them discover it for themselves? Let them discover it, President Martinez said firmly. They betrayed us once. They'll betray us again if they think we're too powerful. Better to let them underestimate us until it's too late. Dr. Webb nodded. I agree. We send a small response force. Maybe 20 ships, using technology that looks only slightly advanced from what they expect. Let them think we've made modest improvements. While our real fleet eliminates the Vorthan Collective, Sarah continued, let the Council think they're getting minor help from weak humans while we solve their problem for them. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Humanity would send a token force to officially help the Council while secretly deploying their real military to end the Vorthan threat. The Council would get their victory but never know who really won it for them. 2 weeks later, Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the CNS Independence as it approached the Council fleet staging area. Her ship was one of 20 vessels that made up humanity's official response to the Council's request for help. To outside observers, they looked like upgraded versions of human ships from before the isolation. Good enough to be useful, but nothing that would threaten Council superiority. Incoming transmission from the Council fleet, reported Lieutenant Davis from the communications station. Put it through, Captain Rodriguez ordered. Admiral Keth of the Zephyrian Empire appeared on the main screen. His expression showed polite interest mixed with barely concealed condescension. Captain Rodriguez, Admiral Keth said formally, welcome to the Joint Fleet. I must say, I am impressed that humanity was able to contribute any ships at all, given your recent difficulties. We do what we can, Admiral, Captain Rodriguez replied neutrally. Earth believes in honoring our obligations to galactic peace. Commendable, Admiral Keth said. Your ships will be assigned to the reserve formation, given their ... mutations ... It would be best to keep them away from the main fighting. Captain Rodriguez nodded as if accepting the slight. Of course, Admiral, we understand our role. What Admiral Keth did not know was that at that exact moment, 300 human ships were already in position around every major Vorthan base. The Council's sensors could not detect them because they existed in pocket dimensions, invisible and untouchable until the moment they chose to reveal themselves. The Council's plan was to gather their scattered forces over several weeks, then launch a massive assault on the Vorthan home systems. It was a reasonable plan that might have worked given enough time and luck. But time was something they did not have. 3 days after the Council fleet finished assembling, the Vorthans launched their own surprise attack. They had been monitoring Council communications and knew about the gathering fleet. Instead of waiting to be attacked, they struck first. Admiral Keth was on the bridge of his flagship when the Vorthan fleet appeared on sensors. 200 enemy ships, larger and more heavily armed than intelligence reports had suggested. All ships battle formation Alpha, Admiral Keth ordered. Launch fighters and prepare for engagement. The battle that followed was a disaster for the Council forces. The Vorthan ships used unknown weapon technology that cut through Council shields like they were not there. Their own defenses seemed almost impossible to penetrate. Within an hour, the Council fleet was in full retreat, leaving dozens of burning ships behind. Captain Rodriguez watched the battle from her position in the reserve formation. Her orders were clear: maintain the illusion of human weakness while real human forces dealt with the threat. Captain, Lieutenant Davis said quietly, Arya reports that Operation Clean Sweep is ready to begin. Tell her to proceed, Captain Rodriguez replied. Across the Vorthan Collective's territory, pocket dimensions suddenly opened. Human ships appeared in formations that surrounded every Vorthan base, shipyard, and fleet concentration. The attack was perfectly coordinated, striking dozens of targets simultaneously. The Vorthan crews had no time to react. One moment their sensors showed empty space. The next they were surrounded by ships using technology they had never seen before. Human quantum torpedoes phased through Vorthan shields as if they did not exist. Nanite swarms dissolved enemy hulls at the molecular level. AI-controlled weapon systems targeted weak points with impossible precision. The Vorthan Collective's entire military force was destroyed in less than 20 minutes. Admiral Keth was still organizing his retreat when his sensors officer made an impossible report. Sir, all Vorthan ships have disappeared from our scopes. Disappeared? Admiral Keth demanded. What do you mean disappeared? I mean they're gone, sir. Every Vorthan vessel in the system just vanished from sensors. No debris. No energy signatures, nothing. Admiral Keth stared at the tactical display in confusion. Moments ago, it had shown a superior enemy force that was defeating his fleet. Now it showed empty space where the Vorthan ships had been. Sir, the communications officer interrupted, we're receiving transmissions from our scouts in Vorthan space. They report that all enemy bases and fleets have been destroyed. Destroyed? By whom? Unknown, sir. The scouts report seeing ships they don't recognize. Ship designs they've never seen before. Admiral Keth felt a cold certainty settling in his stomach. Show me the human reserve formation. The tactical display shifted to show the 20 human ships still maintaining their assigned position. They had not moved during the entire battle. Captain Rodriguez, Admiral Keth said over the communications channel, did your forces have anything to do with the Vorthan disappearance? Captain Rodriguez appeared on screen, her expression perfectly innocent. "I'm sorry, Admiral, but I don't understand the question. Our ships have been in the reserve position throughout the engagement as ordered. But the Vorthans are gone. Their entire military has been destroyed." "How fortunate for galactic peace," Captain Rodriguez replied. "Perhaps they encountered some other enemy? The galaxy can be a dangerous place." Admiral Keth stared at the human captain, trying to read her expression. But all he saw was polite confusion, as if she truly had no idea what had happened to the Vorthan collective. When the joint fleet returned to Council space 3 days later, the official report stated that the Vorthan threat had been eliminated by unknown forces, possibly internal rebellion or conflict with another aggressive species. The human contribution was noted as modest but appreciated. But in the private chambers of the council leadership, a very different conversation was taking place. "It was them," Ambassador Vex said with certainty. "The humans destroyed the Vorthans." "Impossible," High Speaker Korth replied. "We monitored their ships throughout the engagement. They never left the reserve formation." "Then they have ships we cannot see," Vex said. "Technology we do not understand." The implications hung in the air like a poison cloud. If humanity had developed stealth technology advanced enough to fool Council sensors, if they had weapons capable of destroying the Vorthan fleet in minutes, then everything the Council believed about human capabilities was wrong. "How long have they been lying to us?" General Vorth asked quietly. 5 years, Vex replied. "Ever since we betrayed them at the territorial vote." High Speaker Korth's crystalline form pulsed with worried light. "If they can destroy the Vorthans that easily, what could they do to us?" No one in the chamber wanted to answer that question, but they all knew the truth. If humanity had been hiding this level of military capability for 5 years, then the Galactic Council was no longer the dominant power in this region of space. The humans were, and the humans had every reason to remember how they had been treated. High Speaker Korth stood alone in their private chamber aboard the council station, their crystalline body pulsing with nervous energy. It had been 2 weeks since the mysterious destruction of the Vorthan collective, and the council leadership was still trying to understand what had really happened. The official report said the Vorthans had been eliminated by unknown forces. But Korth knew better. The timing was too perfect. The destruction too complete, the human denial too innocent. Somehow, the species they had dismissed as weak and broken had accomplished what the entire Council fleet could not. A soft chime announced an incoming priority message. Korth activated the secure communication system, expecting another update from Council intelligence. Instead, they found themselves looking at Admiral Sarah Chun. "High Speaker Korth," Sarah said formally, "I am requesting an immediate emergency session of the full Galactic Council." Korth's crystalline form flashed with surprise. "Admiral Chun, how did you access this secure channel? And on what authority do you request a council session?" "Humanity is no longer a member. I am requesting the session under Article 7 of the Galactic Charter," Sarah replied calmly. "The right of any spacefaring species to address the Council in matters of galactic security." "What matters of galactic security could possibly require immediate attention?" Korth asked. Sarah's expression remained perfectly neutral. "The future of galactic civilization. I suggest you gather the Council quickly, High Speaker. This conversation will only happen once." The transmission ended, leaving Korth staring at a blank screen. Something in Sarah's tone made the ancient being's crystalline structure vibrate with unease. This was not the desperate plea of an isolated species begging for readmission. This was something else entirely. 6 hours later, the council chamber was filled with representatives from across the galaxy. Word had spread quickly that the humans had requested an emergency session. Most council members attended out of curiosity, more than concern. What could the isolated, weakened humans possibly have to say that mattered? Admiral Sarah Chun walked into the chamber wearing her formal Earth uniform, the same one she had worn 5 years ago during the territorial vote. But something was different about her. She moved with quiet confidence, like someone who held all the cards in a game others did not even know they were playing. Behind her walked 20 other humans. all wearing military uniforms with ranks and insignia the council had never seen before. They took positions around the chamber's lower level, not in the human delegation area, but spread throughout the room. High Speaker Korth called the session to order. Admiral Chun, you have requested this emergency session under Article 7. Please state your purpose. Sarah walked to the central speaking platform and looked around the chamber. Her gaze lingered on Ambassador Vex, on General Vorth, on all the beings who had voted to betray humanity 5 years ago. I am here to announce the dissolution of the Galactic Council, Sarah said calmly. The chamber erupted in shocked voices, angry shouts, and demands for explanation. Sarah waited patiently for the noise to die down before continuing. 5 years ago, this council voted to strip humanity of legally obtained territorial rights. You cut us off from galactic civilization. You treated us like children who needed to be punished for daring to claim equality with our betters. Ambassador Vex stood up. Admiral Chun, you have no authority to dissolve anything. You represent a minor species with no military power and no galactic standing. Sarah smiled, and there was something in that smile that made several council members shift uncomfortably in their seats. You are correct that we represent a minor species, Ambassador Vex. What you are wrong about is everything else. She gestured to one of the humans positioned around the chamber. The woman activated a device that projected a holographic display above the speaking platform. The display showed the galaxy, with thousands of ship markers scattered throughout council space. As we speak, Sarah continued, human ships are in position around every major world, military base and strategic installation in council territory. We have been there for weeks, invisible to your sensors, waiting for this moment. General Vorth's massive form shifted in his seat. Impossible. Our sensors would detect any fleet large enough to threaten council space. Your sensors detect what? We allow them to detect, Sarah replied. For 5 years, you believed we were broken and isolated. In reality, we use that time to develop technology that makes your most advanced systems look like stone tools. She gestured again, and the holographic display changed to show technical specifications. Ship designs that looked like nothing the Council had ever seen. Weapon systems based on principles that defied known physics. Defensive technologies that seemed impossible. This is what humanity accomplished while you congratulated yourselves on putting us in our place, Sarah said. Every day you ignored us was another day we grew stronger. Every month you dismissed us was another month we pulled further ahead of you technologically. High Speaker Korth's crystalline body was pulsing rapidly with agitation. What do you want, Admiral? What is your demand? No demands, Sarah replied. I am not here to negotiate. I am here to inform you of the new reality. She activated another control, and the chamber's communication systems came online. Sarah's image and voice were now being broadcast across every world in council space. Transmitted on every frequency, received by every device capable of communication. Citizens of the galaxy, Sarah began, her voice carrying to billions of beings. Across hundreds of worlds. For thousands of years, you have lived under the rule of the Galactic Council. A system where the strong dominated the weak, where the old suppressed the young, where corruption and favoritism decided who prospered and who suffered. Ambassador Vex was frantically trying to cut the transmission, but his controls were not responding. None of the Council's systems were responding to their commands anymore. The Council told you that this system brought peace and stability, Sarah continued. But what it really brought was stagnation. For centuries, your technology barely advanced. Your societies remained frozen in old patterns. Your potential was limited by beings who feared change because change might threaten their power. Around the chamber, the human officers were activating more devices. Holographic displays appeared throughout the room, showing images from across the galaxy. Council military bases where human ships had materialized from nowhere. Government. Buildings where human soldiers stood guard. Communication centers where human technicians worked at control panels. Today, that era ends, Sarah announced. The Galactic Council is dissolved. In its place, we offer a new compact. A true democracy where every species has an equal voice. Where advancement is based on merit, not political connections. Where the young and innovative are encouraged, not suppressed. She paused and looked directly at the council representatives. This new system will be called the Galactic Assembly. Every species that wishes to join will be welcome, including those who served on the old council. But you will join as equals, not rulers. Your titles and privileges are ended. Your private deals and secret agreements are void. High Speaker Korth finally found their voice. You cannot simply declare our government dissolved. We have legitimate authority granted by thousands of years of precedent. You have whatever authority we choose to allow you, Sarah replied coldly. And we choose to allow you none. She gestured to the holographic displays showing human forces throughout council space. Every ship in your fleets, every base you control, every world you govern exists now only because we permit it. We have demonstrated our technological superiority by eliminating the Vorthan Collective in 20 minutes. We could eliminate your entire civilization just as easily. The chamber fell silent as the full implications became clear. The humans were not making threats or negotiating terms. They were simply stating facts. However, Sarah continued, her voice softening slightly, we are not the Galactic Council. We do not rule through fear and oppression, we offer choice. She activated another display showing a document written in dozens of languages. This is the Charter of the Galactic Assembly. Any species that signs it will be welcomed as an equal partner in a new form of galactic civilization. Those who refuse will be left alone to govern themselves as they see fit, but they will have no say in galactic affairs. Ambassador Vex stood up again, his composure cracking. And if we refuse both options, if we choose to fight? Sarah's expression became very cold. Then you will discover why the Vorthan Collective no longer exists. She looked around the chamber one more time. You taught us an important lesson 5 years ago. You taught us that trust is a luxury we could not afford. That friendship is a weakness that would be exploited. That in this galaxy only the strong survive. She smiled again, but there was no warmth in it. Thank you for that lesson. We have learned it well. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. For long moments, no one spoke. The reality of their situation was too overwhelming to process quickly. Finally, High Speaker Korth spoke. How long do we have to decide? The Assembly. Charter will be available for signature for 30 days, Sarah replied. After that, we will consider any species that has not joined to be uninterested in galactic affairs. And then? General Vorth asked. Then we proceed without you, Sarah said simply. The galaxy is large enough for multiple ways of life, as long as those ways do not threaten galactic peace. Over the next 30 days, the old order of galactic civilization collapsed with shocking speed. Some species signed the Assembly Charter immediately, eager to be part of the new system. Others tried to organize resistance, only to discover that their military forces had been quietly neutralized by human ships they could not see or fight. A few species chose isolation, withdrawing to their home systems and rejecting any involvement in galactic affairs. The humans allowed this, true to their word about respecting different choices, but most signed the charter. Ambassador Vex was one of the last to surrender his old authority. He came to Earth personally to sign the document, his proud bearing replaced by quiet defeat. I underestimated you, he admitted to Sarah as he signed his name to the charter. I thought isolation would break you. It did break us, Sarah replied. It broke our trust in others. It broke our willingness to accept second-class treatment. It broke our belief that the old ways were worth preserving. She looked out the window at the ships in Earth's orbit. Some were the sleek new human designs, but others bore the markings of dozens of different species. The assembly fleet was already taking shape, but sometimes things need to be broken before they can be rebuilt properly, Sarah continued. Vex nodded slowly. What role will the old council species play in this new assembly? Whatever role your abilities and dedication earn you, Sarah replied. No more, no less. And if we prove ourselves worthy of leadership again? Sarah turned to look at him directly. Then you will lead, but you will never again lead alone. Those days are over forever. 6 months after the dissolution of the Galactic Council, the First Galactic Assembly convened on a new station built in neutral space. Representatives from over 200 species attended, more than had ever participated in galactic government. Before, Admiral Sarah Chun was elected as the first assembly speaker, but not by human votes alone. Species from across the galaxy chose her because they had seen what human leadership could accomplish. In her inaugural address, she spoke about the lessons learned from the old system and the hopes for the new one. "We gather not as rulers and subjects, but as equals," she said to the assembled delegates. "Not as the strong dominating the weak, but as partners working together. The old council taught us that power corrupts, but they also taught us something more important. They taught us that when you betray those who trust you, you do not eliminate a threat. You create one." She paused and looked around the chamber, at beings from hundreds of worlds working together for the first time as true equals. "Today we choose a different path. Today we choose to build instead of destroy, to include instead of exclude, to trust instead of betray." She smiled, and this time there was genuine warmth in it. "The galaxy is watching us. Let us show them what civilization looks like when it is built on hope instead of fear." The assembly voted unanimously to approve the new charter, and the age of human dominance began not with conquest, but with consent. The species that had once dismissed humanity as children had learned that the children had grown up, and they had become something the galaxy had never seen before. Leaders who did not need to rule through fear because they had earned the right to lead through respect. The betrayal was complete, but it was no longer the Council betraying humanity. It was humanity betraying everything the old system had stood for, replacing it with something better. The galaxy would never be the same.